Tell me, darling, what's stronger, a vase that shatters and gets glued back together, or the one that never breaks in the first place? The world loves a tragedy, doesn't it? Everyone fawns over the broken, the tearful survivor, the phoenix rising from the ashes. But let me ask you something. Who set the fire in the first place? Who lit the match? Who spilled the gasoline? And more importantly, why is no one clapping for the ones who walked through the fire without catching flame? You, my lovely little misfit, you're not broken, are you? Not even a crack. And that's why they fear you, because they couldn't break you. You go to work, smile at strangers, drink your coffee black and bitter like your truths. You don't rant, you don't cry on social media, you don't bleed for the camera. You just keep going, like a machine, like a storm behind calm skies. And they call that unhealthy. They say you're emotionally unavailable, cold, a ticking time bomb. Ha, as if they ever knew what time it is. But you and I, we know the truth, don't we? You are the calm after the explosion, the cigarette after the funeral, the silence in the courtroom when the guilty walks free. You've been through hell, but you didn't cry about it. You didn't scream. You didn't ask for sympathy. You just survived, quietly, dangerously. You didn't fall apart. You learned how to fold your pain into origami smiles. You wear trauma like a tailored suit, sharp, fitted, unassuming. Bravo. You know why the world hates the unbroken? Because you remind them that pain isn't always a performance. And that scares them. But the funny thing about being unbroken is that nobody ever asks how much it cost you. They see the stillness in your eyes and mistake it for peace. But still, water runs deep, doesn't it? And beneath your surface lies an ocean full of screams. Muted, contained, dangerous. You never cried in public, never made a scene. Because somewhere along the line, you learned that the world doesn't care about quiet suffering. Only the loud ones get applause. So you held it in. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every time someone underestimated you, dismissed you, used you, you stored it like a dragon hoards gold, not for wealth, but for fuel. The unbroken are not without pain. They are simply unwilling to offer it up for pity. You didn't become strong because you wanted to. No. You became strong because you had to. Because weakness was a luxury, and you were never allowed luxury, were you? Others fall apart, and the world runs to glue them back together. But you stood tall, silent, no tantrums, no tears, and they called that strength. What they didn't see is that it was actually survival. You learned to suppress the fire instead of feeding it, to swallow the scream instead of letting it echo. And still somehow, you remained whole, not out of peace, but out of choice. Because if you ever let go, well, the world wouldn't survive your chaos, would it? That's the thing. The unbroken are not saints. They're not statues. They are time bombs in tuxedos, porcelain masks over nuclear hearts. You smiled while they poked at you, laughed while they doubted you. But inside you were sharpening your teeth on the bones of every insult they whispered behind your back. You didn't need validation. You needed distance from the noise, from the lies, from the shallow applause of people who can't even look themselves in the mirror. And still you rose. Still, you showed up. Still, you played their little game, and you played it well. But what they don't realize is that you've been playing your own game all along. You watched. You listened. You learned. You sat at the back of the room and became the smartest monster in it. You let them think you were harmless, all while memorizing the architecture of their minds. You see, the broken want to be fixed, but the unbroken, we want to be understood, and we want to be left alone because we know what we are. We've looked in the mirror, past the skin and smiles. We've seen the beast in our bones, and we've made peace with it. That's the ultimate punchline. While the world chases healing like some holy grail, you've learned to live with the wound, to wear it like a crown, not because it doesn't hurt, but because it no longer controls you. And that makes you unstoppable. You're not a victim. You're not a survivor. You are a warrior in stillness, a blade that never dulls, no matter how many times they try to bend you. Let them keep searching for strength in sob stories. Let them romanticize the broken pieces, while they glue themselves back together with borrowed words and empty affirmations. You'll keep walking, whole, cold, ready, because the world isn't kind to the unbroken, but it sure as hell can't handle them. But oh, don't get too comfortable. Don't think for 1 second that being unbroken is a gift they'll ever thank you for. They won't clap for you. They won't write songs about the calm ones. There are no Netflix specials for people who don't explode. You didn't cry at the funeral. You didn't collapse in the courtroom. You just nodded, zipped up your coat, and kept walking. And because you didn't bleed on the floor for them, they think you weren't cut. Idiots. They mistake silence for strength, stillness for peace, control for coldness. But you and I both know you've just become an expert at hiding the bodies. Not the literal ones, well, maybe, but the versions of you that had to die so the rest of you could survive. They don't know how many yous you've buried in that quiet little graveyard behind your smile. They'll never see the funeral parlor behind your eyes. And still, you smile, because they don't deserve to see what's underneath. You keep your hands clean, your shirt pressed, your words sharpened. You walk through hell like you own it because in some twisted way, you do. You've seen pain. You've shaken its hand, dined with it, memorized the sound of its footsteps behind you. But you never let it become your name. You didn't wear your trauma like jewelry. You didn't decorate your wounds for sympathy points. You tucked them in, tight, like weapons beneath a suit. And now they call you intimidating, detached, dangerous, good. Let them choke on their labels while you carve your path through the chaos like a scalpel. See, the world is addicted to drama. It wants noise, wants reaction. It wants to see you crack so it can feel better about itself. Because if you break, then they don't have to feel so ashamed about falling apart. But when you don't, when you keep standing while everyone else collapses, oh, that makes you the villain, doesn't it? You're the emotionless one. The sociopath, the hard to love, because you didn't make your pain their problem, because you dared to carry your suffering like a crown instead of a cross. So what if you didn't cry? You bled, didn't you? Just not in public. So what if you didn't rant on a screen? You still screamed inward, into the void behind your ribs, where no one could reach, and no one could help. But here's the punchline. You didn't want help. Not really. Because you stopped believing in rescue a long time ago. You became your own hero, your own monster, your own god. They'll never understand the kind of strength it takes to keep quiet when everything inside you is howling, to keep smiling when the world deserves a bullet. But that's the strength they'll never teach in books or therapy sessions. That's the kind of power no one talks about, because it can't be bought, pitied, or prescribed. You didn't need affirmation. You needed armor, and you built it out of every rejection, every betrayal, every "you're too much" and "you're not enough." You folded it all into something unholy and beautiful. You, youth, unbroken, the untamed, the unstoppable. And while they're busy trying to fix what's broken, you'll be out there rewriting the rules, redrawing the maps, laughing from the top of the empire you built with nothing but silence and spite. Because you didn't just survive, you chose not to shatter, and that makes you dangerous. They say pressure creates diamonds. Cute, isn't it? But what they forget to mention is that most things under pressure don't become diamonds. They crack, they collapse, they turn to dust. You didn't. And that, my dear, that makes you something else entirely. Not a diamond, not some glittery little stone for people to gawk at. No, you became something harder, sharper, darker. You didn't just withstand the pressure. You absorbed it, turned it into momentum. And now they wonder why you walk like the ground belongs to you. Why your silence fills a room louder than their tantrums ever could. Because people like you, the ones who didn't break, you carry a presence they can't quite name. It's not arrogance. It's not cruelty. It's certainty. It's clarity born from chaos. You're not out here looking for validation. You're not begging anyone to believe in you. You've already looked the abyss in the eye, and you didn't blink. You already know who you are. And that's the scariest thing in the world to people who don't. You see, the unbroken aren't praised because we don't make good stories. We don't fit the narrative. There's no dramatic downfall, no rescue arc, no redemption song. There's just resilience, a quiet refusal to crumble, a stubborn commitment to being whole, even when the world keeps handing you hammers. And that's not entertaining. It's threatening, because when you refuse to be broken, you expose the truth that some people chose to shatter, that some people wanted to, not because they were weak, but because weakness gave them something they thought they couldn't earn any other way. Attention, sympathy, excuses. But you kept going without applause, without a script, without needing to be seen. And now that they see you, they want to tame you, wrap you in labels, call you cold, difficult, emotionally unavailable. But let me ask you something. Why would you ever be available to a world that only values you when you're in pieces? Why open up to people who only get close to taste your pain? Let them talk. Let them stare. Let them drown in their noise while you move like a whisper through the fire. Because your strength, it's not in your volume. It's in your restraint. Your power isn't in how loud you roar. It's in how calmly you reload. You didn't come here to be admired. You didn't survive to make anyone else comfortable. You came to build, to rise, to watch the world throw storms at you and laugh as you drink the rain. You are the embodiment of every warning they ignored, every line they crossed, every silent consequence they never saw coming. You are the shadow that didn't flinch, the calm hand at the center of the hurricane. And they'll never understand you, because they were too busy falling apart while you were busy putting everything together. No, you're not broken. You're forged. And the funny thing about things that are forged They're stronger than anything that's ever been healed. You want the truth? Fine, here it is. The world doesn't care that you stayed strong. It doesn't reward discipline. It doesn't throw parties for self-control. No one writes songs about the one who didn't scream. You didn't crack, so you got no sympathy. You didn't collapse, so you got no compassion. You didn't bleed, so they assumed you didn't bruise. But deep down, you know, that was never your story. You weren't born to be pitied. You were born to be feared. You didn't survive to become a symbol. You endured to become a weapon. And now, here you are, not broken, not healed, just aware. Aware that strength isn't about scars. It's about silence. It's about what you didn't say, what you didn't do, how you held it all inside and smiled anyway. You see, the real war isn't out there. It's not the heartbreaks or the betrayals or the screaming matches at midnight. The real war? It's what happens inside you when nothing is happening. It's the war between the urge to destroy and the will to remain still. It's the moment when the world expects you to crumble, and you choose to stay calm. Not because you're not angry. Oh no, no, no. You are a cathedral of fury. You are an earthquake dressed in skin. You are rage refined down to its purest, coldest form. Control. Let them rage. Let them scream. Let them burn their lives down for applause. You'll just sit back, hands clasped, watching the fire reflect in your eyes, because they forgot what people like you are capable of. They think if you didn't react, you didn't feel. They think if you didn't break, you weren't under pressure. They think if you didn't fight back, you weren't dangerous. But people like you, you're not just dangerous. You're the final page in the book. You're the twist they didn't see coming. You are what happens when someone learns to endure without becoming numb, to feel pain without becoming bitter, to be alone without becoming hollow. You are what happens when stillness becomes strength and strength becomes strategy. You're the one they underestimated, and that was their first mistake, their last mistake, because you didn't survive to prove them wrong. You survived to prove yourself right. You were never meant to break. You were meant to bend the world. That voice inside you, the one that whispered, "Keep going, don't show them. They don't deserve your pain." That voice was never wrong. And now, you're not broken. You're not even healed. You're something else entirely. You're whole on purpose. That's the punchline. All this time, they were trying to fix what they thought was missing in you. But you were never missing anything. You were subtracting the noise, the need to be understood, the need to be forgiven, the need to be loved by people who couldn't even love themselves. They wanted you to scream so they could feel better about whispering. They wanted you to shatter so they didn't feel so guilty about breaking. But you stayed silent, stayed whole, and that made you the villain in their fairy tale. So be it. Wear the crown, be the threat, be the calm shadow behind every storm. Let them keep searching for meaning in their misery, while you build kingdoms in your silence. You're not just unbroken, you're undeniable. And if they still don't understand, then let them laugh. Let them joke. Let them try to define you, explain you, reduce you. Because the truth is, you were never the punchline. You were the setup. And now it's your turn to laugh.